Hello, everyone. We are here in the AI drop. I'm Anji Ismail, and yes, my initials are AI. But this show is not about me, it's about artificial intelligence. Today, I'm here with almost a neighbor called Trevor. Trevor is a founder of Myko. We're going to talk about how AI is helping salespeople and revenue teams, but also much more about how we build great AI startup. Hello, Trevor. Welcome to the show.
It's great to see you again. Happy to be here. I didn't even realize that your initials were AI. That should be the
Hey, you
tagline
see?
every time you get into a new sales pitch. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I was built for that era. But no, thank you for joining me. We are a few miles away, I guess, here in Miami. So it's not often that we have builders. Yeah, you are building something super cool. So tell us really quickly, like your pitch with Michael, what you're doing.
Yeah, so we're building a voice first interaction layer over enterprise software. So, what does that mean? Effectively, we let anyone in an enterprise carry out actions, edit, update, create things, their underlying data like Salesforce through voice. So, right now, we target a lot of field teams, people that are out in the field on their phones who want to log into software. They have administrative work that they have to do, but it's just too hard for them. Either the apps are too hard to click through or they're not mobile friendly. That's where we really started over the last couple of months, and it's been working well.
Nice, amazing. Yeah, I'm showing the website a little bit here. Like that you have a drop in now so that people can just reach out to you. Like this is really founder mode. You're
So
never
we
sleeping.
just recently set that up using Roam,
Okay.
and it it literally is like a live link, and we've had people drop in to basically like our virtual HQ. So if I
Okay.
wasn't on this podcast right now, it'd be a little green dot, and
Okay.
you just like click it, and we'll literally just drop people right into a meeting with me. It's been great for lead gen.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Actually, I probably gonna add it to my website as well. Even though I already have like many enough distraction these days, but
Enough CTAs everywhere to make sure.
yeah, I mean, hopefully, I will have like good quality leads because it's crazy like the interest, and I'm sure you're getting the same. You know, like people just trying to do anything with AI, and so you have to qualify all these leads. So super interesting what you're doing, and so I guess this problem you are solving is coming from the fact that logging in information inside CRM like Salesforce is just like so complex, and it's creating what like a lot of discrepancies. Team are not able to fill the right information, and then it goes down to you know wrong qualification for the leads or revenue teams not being able to chase the right customers.
It's one of those things where the software has been around for so long that it actually is better for all the admins and back office people than the front office people that really need to use it. So sellers aren't able to do a lot of the basic stuff. If you think about what the purpose of a CRM is, like logging in activity, recording a conversation they had with a customer, it just takes too long. So they just don't do it because there aren't a lot of great incentives for them to do it other than their manager not yelling at them.
Yeah.
It's been interesting that we've seen our product makes it so easy for them to now start doing these tasks. Instead of nagging people about it, they actually want to use it because they know that information could be helpful for them if it's like under a certain threshold. And so it's part of just like a legacy industry that has been waiting for disruption with AI, which I'm sure you see just as well as we do.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's interesting what you are trying to do with voice as well, because the incumbent software you have to like. This is probably someone just trying to reach you and to get you a new lead, but we are live recording, so no problem about that. So yeah, we're saying like with your software, your AI approach, you are taking a voice first approach, right? So the problems that are facing your user base is that drop downs, fields, text area to fill, especially people on the field, maybe teams that are going here and there. Voice is just more natural. And do you think like AI, I would say voice to text or voice to system, that's what you're trying to do, is good enough? Or how much have you to build and how much do you have to still iterate so that you get at 100% accuracy between the voice of the salespeople to the Salesforce records?
Right now, we're at the point where the voice to records of what they want to do is very high. So on the accuracy standpoint, like we're able to do what we want to be able to do to like really help the users carry out those actions. I'm curious on your take on this too, of like where we think as they say, the puck is going, is I think people are getting more and more comfortable using AI in voice to voice models. Now, voice to voice doesn't really work for any workflow yet because the latency is too long, right? Like when you use a product like ours, it takes a couple seconds, sometimes a little longer, for us to carry out all of those actions to find the right data, find in the right places, and return it back to the user. And if you're trying to do that in a voice to voice conversation, it's just not there yet. It takes too long. In a couple of years, as the models get better, I think like all of these actions that right now we're doing voice through text, I think are going to be like not only voice to voice, but like you be on a like video call like this, and it could be like updating the UI and like showing things and going places as you're having that conversation with the voice without any of that latency or lag time. So we really see this as an initial, almost like proof of concept to get people comfortable starting that process using voice. But ultimately, like we don't want it to be the voice to text. We want it to be kind of a voice to voice or a more fluid interaction mechanism.
Yeah, it's true. Like voice is natural, but then voice to system is not really natural. Like we've never really interacted with voice to send emails or voice to record something in a system, etc. So I think it takes time, and also there is probably ways to improve this, not only the model and the inference themselves, but probably just like how we handle our data. And like in the voice you have some cleaning to do, I guess you have some matching and say, okay, this customer actually, you have another customer that is super similar, so maybe did you mean this like John and Co, or did you mean John and Co, right? Like, so I think we have a lot, and as startup this is what we're working on. And so I would say,
Well,
um,
I was just jumping quickly too. I think everyone's so jaded because of how bad Siri is.
yeah, exactly, we're still, yeah,
Because
and
like
it's true.
Siri theoretically is like voice to action, like open my weather app, like
Yeah,
add an invite to my calendar. But like it's so terrible. It's been so terrible for so long. I think it actually like helps people know what it could do. And I think they're just like catching up to like, okay, AI is now good enough that it's not Siri. Like it can
yeah.
do what you want it to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's totally the fact that we have been, we're kind of lazy people. So whenever there is a new technology, we expect it's gonna be super good. I think Siri is like any old technology now. It's just like being catch up by all this other information, all these other options. Sorry, and also Apple cannot just release something bad. So hopefully it's gonna get better and better as it goes. But for now, yeah, Apple intelligence is not great. So
You
we're still
have to
waiting.
think they're going to do something eventually, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, everybody, is wishing that they are going to come up with a real assistant. So as we are lazy, we can rely even more on our virtual assistant to do everything we don't want to do. And at home, you don't have a manager to tell you, hey, get this data in this system. So you have to rely on Siri or something, or Alexa, maybe. Maybe the
Maybe
Amazon one would be good.
they'll just buy someone like Anthropic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they have the cash, so, or maybe they buy, something like Myko, or maybe you guys. We never know. So, talking about the company, you raised from Khosla Ventures a pretty large round. So, Khosla is obviously one of the top tier VC. Tell me like a little bit more. The company has been around for a few years. You also did pivot like my company. So we are together in this kind of crazy roller coaster. When you start, you're super hot, and then you don't find product market fit, so you are not so hot for investors and even for yourself. Like you say, what the fuck I'm doing, like why I'm still building this company. So tell me like a little bit, what got you more excited about this idea than the previous one, and maybe, yeah, like AI maybe unlocked some of that use cases. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we had was like the difference between customer discovery and like customer buying motion. So we did a lot of discovery, and every discovery call I left, I was like, oh my God, people love this product. People are gonna be so excited. Like they're gonna be throwing money at us. And then when we finally launched and built and had the product ready, the person who was the buyer would send us to the blocker, and the blocker blocked us every time. So the
Okay.
Rev Ops team and Sales Ops team inevitably would be like, look, this is interesting, but like, we're not going to pay for it. We don't need it. Like, this is my domain. And it was a pretty painful lesson for us to learn. But we had built this technology and we kept having these conversations and kept trying to figure out, okay, we know what the long-term vision is of like interacting with your software through AI and voice. Maybe instead of focusing on this initial use case of analytics, which is where we were originally, of how do we help people make decisions from their data, what if we actually help them like put the data in and update data and edit things in the underlying software? And that's when we started feeling like the nature of the conversations really change.
Okay.
And I think once we started going through the buying motions and it was no longer getting blocked, and like we would get into those conversations with the ops teams, and instead of them just basically calling us dead on arrival, they'd be like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, let's start you with our security questionnaire. Like, let's put this through to procurement so we can get budget. And I think we just started gradually seeing this process where we used to be getting stuck. Now the market was kind of guiding and helping tell us where they were interested in. And then we just kept pushing down that lens to get deeper and deeper into some of these more specific use cases that are a little bit more niche, right? So even now, like we're really targeting like upper mid market and enterprise teams with outside sellers. So people that aren't in office all day, people that are out in the field, going to in-person meetings. And that's it. That's a little bit more of a niche, right? Before we were doing more business analytics on anybody that has Salesforce, right? It's a big, big, scary
Yeah.
market.
Yeah, I mean, like this is interesting what you're saying. Like the vision was the same, the product or the technology that you built had common layers and some common features, but you really refined the go to market, the persona, the ideal customer profile to get to what you call a niche. But I guess it's still pretty big market, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's something we see, and I usually call it like more iteration rather than pure pivot. Like the pivot we did at my company, we were a B2C neobank and now we are B2B software. So selling completely different thing. We scrapped the full product to come back to something new. And I think your path is really, your journey is super interesting because you learned from rejection, from people not being ready to buy, to actually find that specific use case where people are super excited and ready to pay, which is the ultimate validation, right? You get customer to pay. I love that.
No, it's a challenge, right? I mean, like getting people to actually open up their wallets, especially for an early stage company. Like what we're seeing more and more is like, it's not that people want to see a demo. Like everybody wants the full working product. So it's almost getting harder to be like an earlier stage founder because it's no longer the old days where Reid Hoffman would be like, oh, like launch with an embarrassing product. Like nobody cares. Like just get in users' hands. Like that's not what anybody wants. Like everybody we talk to wants basically perfection. Like they want a full working product on day one, and that's what they're interested in. So it's like, how do you balance that with like, okay, we also need to get something in people's hands. We can't spend 3 years building something.
Yeah. And especially in the AI craze, I think last year was probably the demo year, where we start seeing all this nice demo for, especially for enterprise use cases. And this year is production. So people, the buyers at the companies are waiting the fully baked product that is actually working. And of course, models, are not perfect. So experience might not be perfect. So you have to feel like you have to ship something that is truly good, so that otherwise people are not going to buy. And there are so many options also on the market right now that make it super super hard.
How have you thought about that in terms of the like buying process? Like our motion is top down right now, right? Like we sell into big enterprises, we have lots of sales people we talk to, but we're constantly thinking of like, how can we make it so that they can trust us without connecting us to their Salesforce? Because that's a huge hurdle. Like you have
Yeah.
to finish security, you have to finish procurement before they even let you like get something demoable. So we've been trying to figure out ways of like, what's a lower friction way we can put something in someone's hands so you can test it and play with it without having to go through 100 steps and hoops. So like
Yeah.
we've started creating little like demo environments with fake data that we've built for people to try. I'm just curious how you've thought about it because you're in a similar like you
Yeah.
can't do much without connecting to the ERP, right?
Yeah, yeah. Probably we're a little bit earlier because we're still like prototyping a lot, and also I'm doing a lot of vibe coding myself, to try to get, okay, do you like this? Is it accurate enough, etc. But definitely, I think pilot with test data is one way. I think the other approach that sounds interesting, maybe because you are connecting to the CRM, we are connecting to the ERP, but we don't build the integration. Actually, the approach I'm taking is a file import and export. So our buyers, they can do an import and an export from their, SAP, NetSuite, and this type of thing, but definitely they don't have enough uh, push or enough traction internally to have the CTO approve a small startup full integration inside the
Yeah.
system of record for all the financial information. I think for you might be the same way. Like, can you have, 10, 20, 50 rep, like sales rep on the field, start logging in their information. But instead of going directly to Salesforce, it's going to be filling a custom spreadsheet with all the headers that match the import. And so then they can see, okay, customer name, notes, contact, whatever, pricing, etc. All the information extracted from the voice note, and then they just have to then do the import. And I guess there is a bunch of mapping that happen in Salesforce, and that's a way where like you technically selling the voice to text interaction without the big mess of doing the actual integration. And that might be a way to run a pilot. I don't know.
I mean, right, our goal is just like, how do we get people to use this
Yeah.
without like as soon as possible? So it's like anything we can do to get their hands on. And like, I even sometimes will just open up during the demos. And be like, what do you want to see? I'll do it live right now. Like, I'll show it to
Yeah.
you. Like, it's risky. Like, I've had that break lots of times. Then you kind of make the joke of like, at least you know it's not fake type thing. But like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, and building trust. I mean, it's always been a problem, right? Building trust for startup, it's not new, but it's true that with AI in the loop, like the new AI way of selling things, it's adding both, I would say, a way to accelerate sales because you have a view on the benefits that is probably a little bit faster for the buyer to see, oh, this is how I can use it. But on the other hand, it's creating that demand and that level of quality requirement to go through the, oh yeah, it's nice, and to shit, I definitely need this tomorrow in my system, right? So I think it's still something we have to figure out. And so you've been in finance before, like you were not in sales, right? So your background is more finance. I know you were at a rating agency.
Yeah.
I saw that. So how did you move from like finance, capital market stuff to actually sales technology like Myko now?
So the abridged version is when I graduated business school, I knew I wanted to do a startup. And the original company we built, we did do a pivot like you, where we were building a financial modeling solution.
Mm,
So it basically plugged QuickBooks data directly into Excel or Google Sheets, where each cell would be linked to an individual like GL account. So you could build
okay.
really, it was like Cap IQ or Bloomberg for core finance teams or like Oracle S-Base. So we built that and launched it. And so it was like an off the shelf PLG financial modeling tool. That was back in 2020. It took us way longer to build than we thought it would. Like the QuickBooks integration was a nightmare. And then the Excel integration was a nightmare. And then we finally got it to work, but we never got venture scale growth. So like even with a like QuickBooks partnership, ultimately like we got, it's still like growth was slow and steady, never at the point we wanted to. And so my co-founder had a traditional machine learning background and we were looking around and we actually built our own language model entirely from scratch, released it 2 weeks before ChatGPT came out, went viral on Twitter and like got all of this downloads and hype. Our website crashed at one point, but nobody would pay for it. It was like a really cool parlor trick. Everyone's like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh, like you want to buy this?" They're like, "No." They were like, "I don't need it. It doesn't solve any problem for me." And so once again, it was like we went back to like, okay, we got this cool technology. Like, who wants to buy it? And so that's when we started moving from like the finance team to sales because everyone we talked to, we were like, okay, who has a ton of data? They don't know what to do with the data and has a lot of money to spend on budget. And everyone's like, sales, go for sales.
Yeah. No, I mean, super interesting because I guess if you had continued to build in that space, maybe you would have become what we are building now. Like there is a lot of overlap on your first version. And actually that's a use case we see a lot in like reconciliation, taking data from the ERP and trying to match it to, the GL codes or just like the banking statement, etc. So it's very busy. Like there is a lot of demand right now because I think it has AI craze as like a lot of use cases that were initially done manually and people were like, no matter what, we have to do it. So that's super interesting that you had this moment. But yeah, as you said, that was like 4 years ago. Maturity of the market is key. Lucky enough, I mean, it's not lucky. Like you've been looking for like for a market that were looking for a solution, and so now you have a product that work for that specific niche. So that's great. So you graduated from Miami Dade, right? You were born here in Miami,
I was born in New York, went to University of Miami, and then
University of
went
Miami.
and then went back to New York.
Okay, nice. And so why did you come back to Miami after that, after graduating from New York?
Yeah, so we that's when I started working in the company. We were fully remote at that time. We had roots in Miami. And we're thinking of just like, well, where do we want to think about settling down? And so moved down here like right at the beginning as the kind of Miami tech scene started expanding pretty rapidly. And once that happened, we're like, oh, this is great. Like maybe post COVID we can stay here. So it's been really nice to kind of see the community get built up and continuing to see more AI founders in the space.
Yeah, and you. So one thing that is interesting that you were able to close some customer. I don't know, like you cannot probably say the names and stuff, but like in the city, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's very cool because what we always say is like to be in the mind of your customers, you need to be as close as possible, and location is one way to be close to them, right? Like budget is another way to be close if you they spend a lot with you or if they use your software a lot. But being close to them is a great way to actually be present in the head, and so they think about you.
Well,
So
it's
I
nice
think that's
because
cool.
historically there haven't been as many kind of startups down here, and so when we get connected with some of the local ones, they're like, oh, like yeah, like solves our pain point, seems interesting, like let's check it out.
Yeah, it's a good market. I think like Miami is not a good market for everything, but I can feel that sales team is probably something pretty strong here. Historically, there've been a lot of like call centers for, LATAM support for also for the rest of America because historically that has changed. But Miami was a labor market that was probably a little bit cheaper. And, we have no like a very, very less tax on labor and on also just for people. Now it has changed. Prices are crazy and it's not probably not a cheap market anymore. But definitely interesting to see the Miami tech scene also picking up. Switching back to the AI craze and the hype, what is getting you excited in this day? Like, are you seeing any? Like, are you waiting anything to kind of unlock the next set of features for you, accuracy wide? But you've been building your own LLM internally, so I guess you're already on the edge of what's
Well,
doable.
we're not using that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, but like you kind of got experience onto that. So yeah, now you're saying like there is a lot of thing on the shelf that is good enough, right? You leverage that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things we're waiting on is really on the latency side. So as we
Okay.
can continue doing things faster, it unlocks more like multi-step workflows that we can work with the user to do in real time. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know if you've tried the new O3 model, but
Not
for
yet.
for a lot of research things, I've found it like a remarkably large step forward compared to where it was with 4.0.
Okay.
So like one simple example is I walked it through like here's our company, here's what we're building, here's a couple examples of customers we've sold to, come up with 20 case study and examples of like other hyper growth startups and their go to market strategies that have worked really well. And it gave really really good advice on like, oh, here's what this company did, here's how you could tweak it and use it for your market and reach out to these people. And then like I picked one of those and was like, can you elaborate on how to execute on this strategy? And like just walking it through like the full go to market motion, like it was leaps and bounds ahead of where the old 4.0 model was. And so I thought that was
Okay.
really crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have time to test it, and that make me think I'm gonna share this post. So it's like you have the eyes, alcohol, weed, cocaine, and then trying to keep up with AI news. This is like literally this, right? Like O3 model dropped, I think last week, and just in this like the week before we had improvement from Gemini 2.5 and we had also Llama 4. So it's really crazy like the amount of thing we have to look after, which is kind of cool on some point because it make us more relevant, I guess, like the wrappers, the people building on top of AI models. As all these models get shipped, it's kind of, yeah, it's making some improvement and we get excited. But at the end of the day, the application layer, what's doing the last mile delivery of the value is what is being appreciated and what people are paying for, because the cost of LLM and the cost of token is near zero. So are you capitalizing on this? Like are you seeing your margin growing up, or you're still trying to stick to the model curve so that you get your product better and better?
We've been focusing on the like product better and better piece for now. I think the way I'm thinking about it broadly, and actually one of the Khosla partners, Sven, I talked about this, was like, if you're building in B2B, just focus on making your product better and like getting as much usage as possible. And then you'll be able to charge them whatever you want. Like if you have a good product and you're selling to enterprises and they're using your product all the time, like you can fine tune your models and use smaller models and figure out ways to get your costs down later on. But just like get the stickiness and usage as soon as possible and then expand on that. I think that's kind of the framework we've taken so far of like, look, we're early stage. Let's just make people super happy and like blow them out of the water. And then we'll figure out ways to bring the cost down once that becomes more critical input.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like a different strategy than what we had in SaaS, right? Where SaaS was kind of like build your product over 90% of the use cases and then expand from there. But the product will never really evolve, like, because you lock the seats and so you lock the licenses. Right now we are in a kind of a race where product quality really matter because you are delivering a service, you're delivering um, like the value through a work that people don't have to do anymore, like you. They don't have to record in Salesforce their calls and their information from their customers, but instead AI is gonna do that for them. But the quality, even though you are saving them 10 hours, if the quality is not 99%, they don't care, right? They will rather do it themselves. So a super good point for you, for anyone listening and building in AI. Right now it's still the time to build the best product and capitalize on the models being better rather than trying to milk the model and improving margin, right?
And you get all the credit from the enterprises because they're like, oh my God, you released another new feature already? Like, that was so fast. It's like,
Yeah.
you're
No,
welcome.
that's I love that. And maybe like, what's the big vision? Like, who are you trying to replace, or what? Like, what you can say about your moat being in this? I imagine there is like some data going on. There is also like the size of the team that you onboard. But market is going so fast that tomorrow vibe coders, they just build something on board that do voice to speech to Salesforce. Sorry, voice to speech, voice to text to Salesforce. So any big vision that kind of feel the growth and also that prevent you to become a product, a commodity product.
As we keep expanding our like integration platform across the stack of what people can do, so not just Salesforce, but we can connect to Gong, Clarity, SalesLoft, Outreach, all the different systems, and then eventually ERPs, like any system that an enterprise user has to log into and interact with in some day. If we can enable them to have a conversation like they would with their manager, covering like catching up on everything and then like giving the AI responsibilities of like, oh, go give me my updated lead list, like fill out my expense report. If we can have people working with agents as if like you and I were sitting in a conference room and I had 10 people with computers and I would like, you work on this, you work on this. I think those workflows that have been set up will be really hard to rip out at the enterprise level.
Okay.
So I think one of the reasons that I've also been very focused on enterprise is it's so slow for them to just get like approval to do things and to set up the workflows, that my thesis is it'll be stickier than if we sell to a 10-person startup, they love us, and then 2 weeks later they're like, oh, why don't we just do this ourselves with OpenAI? Like, once enterprises have you connected to their various systems, like it's pretty painful for them to rip you out. And so we just want to get like as deep as we can in those workflows.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the workflow, I think it's where you get most of the value for the companies, obviously, and also where you build your moat. Like if you're able to deliver that work being done and you automate all this workflow, then you are super sticky in the organization. And also you get an amount of learnings and data that makes you very relevant. I will ask you a last question to be playing the devil advocate. What if like all the salespeople are agents tomorrow? What's your business model? Like how do you see this agent, agent to agent type of thing where maybe you're gonna have agents in the procurement department and agent on the SDR and AE talking to each other? Um, how do you stay relevant in that world? Let's imagine 5 years from now.
It's a good question. I think the big challenge for us is like what are going to be those workflows that are dependent on the internal systems of record that have to be kind of like mirrored and mimicked that are hard to replicate. So a very simple thing of like if I want to close an opportunity at a large company within my Salesforce, there might be like 7 different dependencies that are like not super cleanly codified in different places and have to be cobbled together. And so, to the extent that we can learn within these organizations, all of these effectively rules of engagement and ways that the systems should be interacting with each other, the harder it will be for us to be displaced by another AI agent who's going to have to, in some way, like train and learn all of these new rules. roles.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess like one of the benefit maybe that you're going to build onto is like Salesforce and other CRM are super costly to implement and to customize when it runs, right? Like I know any company that is doing business using Salesforce, they have a Rev Ops team, right? Like people that are just charged of updating Salesforce, creating custom fields, etc. And if you have your agent, your software that is capable of, maybe interacting with Salesforce and finding the right field, updating that field, like people start wasting time in implementation and in customization. I think that would be awesome because you are directly like human to system interaction. That would be a big benefit of what you're building.
Yeah, but I'd also be lying if I didn't say like, yeah, every time a new OpenAI model comes out, am I like, is this good or bad? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we're living in that thing like where the business you're building today might be dead tomorrow. So I think you're trying like we need to try as founders to always build at the edge of what's coming out and also at the edge of what is possible in the companies, right? Especially in B2B, just like finding those workflow that nobody really look at and that are super messy because by the time OpenAI get there, I think we can build very big company and we can be buying OpenAI maybe.
Well, it's just so funny because you hear the VCs like, oh, like we like startup founders that are building things that are like just on the edge of possibility by these AI models. And it's like that advice gets outdated every like 3 to 6 months. Like there's an
Yeah,
entirely
it's true.
new set of like core competencies.
I mean, but VC, I mean, they don't listen to this podcast, so but VC, we know, right? They buy the hype and then they deconstruct the hype the next week or the next month because they have a new thesis. So if you are a founder, don't always listen to VCs. It's they have some good advices,
Get
but
some happy customers.
yeah, exactly. The only advice that worth something are paying customers.
Yeah.
The one that are paying you. No, it's great to share all these learnings like about you and about what you're building, especially in Miami. Again, it's not often that we have founders with this trajectory. So I hope you continue on that path. And yeah, I hope to have you again in the show, like when you are doing 10 million AR month over month, 200% growth and reaching the Series D or whatever. But no, thank you very much for all the good stuff that you're building.
No, this has been fun. And hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have all these events going on. I think the Miami AI scene is kind of, getting super hot right now. And actually, I'm seeing even engineers that I didn't know were in the town. So that's actually making me more bullish on the city because this is what an ecosystem needs. People that are building, not only just doing podcasts like me.
No, you're building over there. Don't be shy.
Hopefully, yeah. So thank you, Trevor. Thank you very much. It was great to have you. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thanks.